Step Africa is set to host a spectacular showcase at the Soweto Theatre in celebration of its 30 years of existence. Now, this two-day event, will be held at the Soweto Theatre on the 4th and the 5th of September. Step Africa is the world's leading organization on the art form of stepping, performing in over 60 countries across the globe and ranking as one of the top 10 African-American dance companies in the United States. And now we're joined in studio by the founders, Moeketsi, Koena, and as well as Brian Williams. Gents, a very good morning. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Moeketsi, Koena.
Koena. All right. I beg your pardon. Thanks for correction.
No problem. Thank you very much for.
It's so good to have you, man. It's so good to have. Are you guys ready?
Yes, we are ready. We're ready.
Can't wait.
We're on fire.
Right. Well, I know so many, audiences can't wait either. Let's talk about how you conceptualized this more than 30 years ago. So when you initially established Step Africa, what was the vision?
Well,
and how has that vision evolved over the years?
Well, I'll begin. It's a wonderful story. I was living here. I'm from the United States, born and raised in Houston, Texas, and was here working in January 1994, which was a fascinating time in the country.
Yeah.
I go over, I'm in Braunfontein. I go to the Civic Theatre, now the Joe Bird Theatre, and there's a performance going on, and it's a Soweto Dance Theatre, founded by Mbuyiselo Jacob Semela. We call him Jackie. And performing in that show is Moeketsi Koena and Nkosi Slatswayo, and I was so moved by that performance, it really changed my life. I approached them after the show and said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about an art form in the United States called stepping, created by African-American fraternities and sororities, as I think it has some interesting connections to art forms here, and maybe we could do something together and call it Step Africa. And 30 years later, so Step Africa begins here in Johannesburg, December 1994, 6 months after the historic elections here in Soweto, Orlando East YMCA. And from there, we've been making magic ever since. And it's been a beautiful partnership that started initially between South Africans, African Americans, but then expanded to many other parts of the globe, like the UK and others.
Yeah, and having expanded to the different parts of the world, so is the concept the same in those different, is it the same or does it differ to adapt to that particular country's cultural landscape?
I think that the most important thing about Step Africa is not only about stepping, it's recognizing the tradition and the cultural aspect that we've got from the Caribbean, from South Africa, from the US, from the UK, as a people, as one people, not only as US or South African, but as one, as a black person, as one, recognizing what we've got. That's why we call it, that's why we said Step Africa, for you to be able to come into the pot, into one pot, and recognizing yourself. It's all about recognizing oneself.
And in your quest to recognize oneself and make sure that people recognize themselves, how do you ensure, authentic representation of the diverse cultural landscapes?
I mean, if ever you look at it, we've got stepping, which is like a historical event, and then a historical culture as well. Yeah. It's got it's a movement. It's not only just stepping as a dance. Also, we've got our traditional traditions and cultures. How we infuse all of this, and how do we teach the younger ones all this information? How do we make it to be vibrant and then to be able to be accessible as well? That was the important part of Step Africa. Okay.
Now, Brian, how does Step Africa's educational program sort of contribute, to the development of future steppers?
Well, when we started this project in 1994, we were in Soweto serving hundreds of children, and they would learn everything from stepping to gumboots to pansula to Zulu, Swazi, Pedi, Sutu, Swana, so many traditions. We bring them all together. And so this week, September 4th and 5th, we'll be at the Soweto Theatre, back in Soweto, with a performance that will unite South African, African-American artists in some exciting ways. We've commissioned 2 new works that have never been seen before that will be there that night. And it's going to be so much. We've seen the rehearsals. To see these 2 cultures come together in the space and dance and perform, you know, contemporary artists, Afrofusion meeting American artists. It's wild.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, 30
There's
years
nothing like it.
30 years is a very long time.
It's a
and,
very long
it's a
time.
very long time. And Step Africa has gone through so many leaps and bounds. Do you want to share with us some of the defining moments in the past 30 years?
I mean, right now, having to be here with Mr. Williams here, I mean, after a long time, 30 years.
Wow.
And then seeing that we are standing here
Wow.
and we're looking at the young ones. I'm working,
Yes.
my team that I'm working with that is organizing this is the ones that have grown up. They've run their own
They were kids in Step
organization. They were
So
kids
they
at that
grew
time.
up with Step
Now
Africa. Wow.
they've grown up, they're supporting us now.
How cool is
They're
that?
leading.
Now I can
How
fold
cool
my
is that?
hands, and so it means that Step Africa, we have done quite a lot of work throughout the 30 years.
Yeah.
All over
and,
the world.
Yeah. And how do you see Step Africa contributing to this cultural exchange between South Africa and the United States?
Well, it's deep. It's a 30-year partnership, you know, hand in hand,
Yeah.
artistic and cultural exchange all the way through, you know. And like some of our favorite memories, we performed in Venda in Toyandu, right? We performed for Goodwill, His Majesty Goodwill's Walatini, and KZN. We performed for Majaji. You know, we did so many things while we were in South Africa.
The whole idea also, it was like, recognize that we've got kings and queens within, because we did visit them and then went to their cross and stayed with them and performed and share with them. Step Africa is all about sharing.
And how has your, speaking of sharing, how has your personal journey as a stepper and artist influenced your leadership in your own...
Well, you know, he's not a stepper. I'm the stepper.
Oh, you're the stepper. But how has it influenced your own leadership in terms of mentoring the younger and the future steppers?
Well, that's what I love. I mean, I represent the tradition of stepping. I learned how to step at Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C., where black fraternities and sororities created this wonderful art form, this percussive dance form. That's so much like the South African gumboot dance. Moeketsi is an artist, performer with the Soweto Theatre, now one of the most amazing contemporary artists. I mean, performing all over the world. And so you have these different styles, but coming from one root. It's very deeply rooted in performance in Soweto, 1994. And you know, the roots, you start spreading different ways.
Right.
Some go contemporary, some go commercial, some go more traditional, you know. But now we're all coming together to share all those at Soweto Theatre. You know, such a beautiful theatre in Jabulani.
It certainly is.
And we're going to blow the roof off the place.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. But just imagine how you guys just look back with so much nostalgia and from where you started to 30 years later. I mean, we are celebrating 30 years of democracy as a country. Just share more details briefly in a few seconds. How do you get the tickets and the times?
Yes, SowetoTheatre.com. You can go to stepafrica.org to get all the information. WebPay, the Pick and Pay. There's so many places. But the best is SowetoTheatre.com's website.
All right, gentlemen, all the best for next weekend.
Thank you very much.